Right. I think we're live now. Please let me know if you could hear me. Sorry, I'm late. I'm 6 minutes late. I was over here making a couple updates for a specific page, which I'll talk about in a second here, but good grief. I just couldn't get things right there up until the last minute. I didn't even get to record my spot ahead of time, so I got no breaks this time. I do see we have a few people in the chat, which is fantastic. I can hear myself, which is also good. We have David on, we have Daniel, and we have Couch, Zach, and John. Very cool. So yeah, welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about 2xing your earnings for your niche site, more traffic and more revenue. And this is, it sounds like a sensational headline. And depending on how much you're earning, it could be very doable. If you're making like 20K per month from your site already, it may be tougher to double it. But if you are, I would say under like 10K or so, this potentially could be really helpful. Generally, you could follow along with the case study that Christy and I have been working on for the last few years. And I published a video with Christy for the March update just yesterday. A lot of people have checked that out. And I'll point out in 2021, she did double her revenue compared to 2020. And that was the goal. That's what we were aiming for. And the interview yesterday is actually, and maybe the last one too, the last two interviews, really it's more like raw and real. It's not a complete spoiler, but the earnings have sort of been flatter than what Christy expected. And the work that she has done in the last, say, 6 weeks hasn't paid off yet. And it's one of those things where if you look back at the very first videos that Christy and I did together in early 2019, early 2019 maybe, she was thrilled to earn $100 in 1 month. But as time goes on, you get used to things. And we pointed it out in the video, and I'll mention it here with Christy. She somehow managed to almost never have any issues with a Google algorithm update. Her growth was almost constant for about 3 years straight. So kind of amazing, a little bit unusual. Normally you would hit some sort of a stagnation period, or maybe you come out of a seasonal peak and then you dip down a little bit. But I mean, really up until this year, her traffic has been constant. Someone did send a question in, and they said, did the algorithm update hit Christy's site? It was clear to me, hopefully the person isn't watching, but it was clear to me the person asked the question before they watched the video, maybe at all. It takes us a little while to dig through everything. But the big thing is, you don't, like if someone says, did you get hit by the algorithm update? Unless there's like an algorithm update that is happening right when we recorded it, then we don't know like which algorithm update you're talking about. So there was one in March, and I think I'll probably do a podcast talking about one of the recent iterations of the product review updates, which typically is targeted at affiliate type sites. So, all right. Today we're going to talk about 2xing the revenue, and I see there was someone who said the headline. Yeah, John says the headline has me glued. So a couple pieces before we get into it. I know a few people are hopping on. We have another Daniel, which is cool. People can hear me. Thanks for letting me know. And John says you're back from Auckland and you're waking up and you saw the border collie. The border collie. I published a video earlier this morning. I actually shot it yesterday, and I brought Georgie out with me, and she's an extremely needy dog. So she was just glued to me. She was flipping upside down, and she was like, pay attention to me. She wants to play constantly. So she was really the star of that one. It was funny that I could even talk while she was messing with me. The whole time she was like poking at me, trying to get me to pet her. So if you haven't watched the video from earlier today, definitely check it out. So I see more people are filtering in, which is fantastic. If you have the opportunity, hit the thumbs up. I think maybe that'll help other people find the video. If you're watching the replay later, leave a comment. It's always good to get more comments, and that is a positive thing. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. That also helps. Couple things I want to announce before we get into the meat of it. And this is going to be sort of a tight situation. I'll lay out some of the core things you could do to 2x your revenue or grow it by a lot, right? So whatever you're thinking, you could grow it by a lot. Specifically, if you're in sort of the early stages of your site. As I mentioned earlier, if you're making like 20K from your site, it's probably going to be tougher to 2x it. If you're earning $200, it's a lot more straightforward. So, a couple things. Check out the latest update from Christy. So she has been publishing blog posts on my site, niche site project. So you could go back and check things out and follow along on the lifetime graph. I don't do this too often, but I was like, hey, I'll do it even though I launched my multi-profit site course last week. I have a course called Site Growth Plan. And the thing that I notice is there's some people that, they're ready to start their site, and multi-profit site is great for them. Or if they're looking for, more early direction. If you already have a site growth plan might be the right choice, where it just gets to the specific things that we're really going to talk about today, but the specific things that you can do to grow your site. Additionally, I have a bundle with the HARO link building course. So if you follow the links, hopefully you'll be able to use the coupon codes that are listed on the checkout page. And if you have any trouble, you can shoot me an email, but I think it should be working okay. And Christy did double her revenue, roughly like 35K in 2020 to about 70K in 2021. Sponsors, quick shout out to Odys Global. They're the source for aged premium domains. I have a little feature over there. It's expert picks. You could follow the link in the description here where I highlight certain domains. We'll take a quick look later. Also, Ezoic. Where's my hat? Ezoic sponsors these too. You can join with no page view minimums, and it's a great way to start getting some display ads and earn revenue on those informational posts. But you could actually put ads on the affiliate post as well. And typically it's not going to impact too much. It'll impact things a little bit, but generally it's probably going to be okay. And you'll probably earn more money. And the key is just testing it out. So you can check out the access now. No page view minimums. Check out Ezoic. And then Niche Website Builders. They sponsor these as well. I'm working with them on a case study. And that is what the video is about from earlier that I published. All right. So now that some of the business is out of the way, let's get into a few of the things that you can do to 2x your revenue. So there are two main areas that you can work on your site. There's a lot of stuff you can stay busy with, but when you're thinking about earning more and you're thinking about getting more traffic, usually it distills down to content, adding more content, maybe improving it. Someone mentioned out there. And then the other piece is promoting your site and doing potentially some link building, but we'll dive into a couple other ideas as well. And John mentions, I suggested updating old content. Definitely true. And Gaz is here as well. You're making some chicken curry. Very cool. All right. So lost my screen here. Sorry, guys, gals. Okay. So probably one of the quickest things you can do, especially if your site is established and it's ranking. And actually, let me know in the chat if you have a site that's like already out of the sandbox, is already earning some money. You could put in some stats there as well, like how old the site is, how much traffic you're getting, and the earnings. You could even break down the earnings, whether it's informational, not informational. You could break down the earnings, whether it's display ads or affiliate. You could talk about how much content you have in different areas like informational or the affiliate product reviews. So one of the quickest things that you can do is improve the existing content. So John's point here is spot on. So let's just make up an example so that we have a scenario that we could think about. So let's say you have a site and there's like 100 articles there. So it's out of the sandbox. Let's say it's about 18 months old or so. 100 articles, 18 months old. It's getting some traffic. It's earning some money. And I'll just make it up and say it's earning like $1,500 per month, something like that. Generally an even split. And I'm just purely making up an example here. So you have 100 articles and you're earning some money. And the thing is, it may be overwhelming if you're like, okay, I need to go back and improve all of the content. So one of the best things you could do is just prioritize a little bit and think about it from an 80-20 perspective. It's almost a little too much content if you're like, okay, it's going to take me an hour per post to go through and just, look at it and maybe come up with a plan to improve that specific piece of content. So that's like 100 hours. It's a few weeks of full-time work, right? And let's say you have another job and you're not doing it full time. So it's a pretty significant time investment. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's going to take me like a month or 6 weeks to go through all 100 articles here. So one of the best things you could do is just hop over to Google Analytics, figure out, say the top 20 articles that are getting the most traffic. That'll be a great way to optimize the things that are working well already. And you could expand it if you want. So let's say you look at the top 20 posts in terms of page views. You could work on those and start improving the content there. Sure, you're missing the other 80%, but most of the traffic is going to the 20 URLs that are getting the most traffic. That's probably going to be the majority of what you need to worry about. So some sites don't break down like that. If you have a lot of long tail traffic, for example, you may have a spread where you look at the top 20 articles in terms of traffic, and that only accounts for like 30% of your traffic. So in those cases, I still recommend you just look at the top traffic pages because you're going to get a lot of the benefit, and it lowers the stress a little bit. Again, if you look at it and you're like, I have 100 articles and it's going to take me a few weeks or like a month and a half to work on it, it's harder to get started. It's harder to get motivated. You have so far to go. It's tough to take those first steps. So if you break it down like that, you might start getting, an improvement, more traffic almost immediately within a few days. So the key is if you're updating content that's already getting traffic, if you're updating content on a site that's out of the sandbox, there's a good chance that you're going to start pulling in more long tail traffic. You're maybe going to improve the rankings, and you'll start seeing the benefit very quickly. Another piece here is tracking things and monitoring on sort of a smaller level. So if you're making such an improvement and you're looking at the data for your whole entire site, you may not be able to notice it. It's like, the traffic's up by 1% or 2% overall for the whole site. It's imperceptible. You may not even notice it. However, if you dial down to the specific page and the URLs that you are updating, then you may see, oh, wow, the impressions jumped up by, 15% in 2 days because I made those changes. It may take a little time for the traffic to move up and the earnings to move up, but if you see that feedback immediately, it's very motivating. So I get questions about motivation a lot, and one motivating thing for a lot of people is to see results based on things that you're doing, especially if you're like, okay, I'm just working on one URL today, and I'm going to come back in 4 days and check it out and see if it's working all right. So John does say over here that you're not out of the sandbox, but you have some traffic and you're ranking via KGR. Fantastic. How many posts do you have? And Jody's on here too. What's going on? Worthy, what's up? Okay, so we're talking about improving content, and one of the very popular ways these days is to add FAQs. And I was talking to, I think it was a recent interviewee, and they were publishing content, but they weren't putting in FAQs yet, which I actually think from a monetary perspective, if you're just trying to keep costs low, you're trying to publish content, you're trying to get out of the sandbox, I think it's great to maybe publish content, especially if you're hiring a writer, without any FAQs, and then you could come back and add them later. So I am working with niche website builders currently, right now, and they're publishing content. There's no FAQs that they're putting on there. The template that I gave them is pretty much a listicle. So there's no FAQs on there. They will be publishing about 200 articles over the course of 4 months. And if you want to check them out, there's a link in the description. The point is, I'll be able to go back and maybe hire a less expensive writer to go and do the work for FAQs. Niche Website Builders does have a service where they add FAQs to content. And, basically you could use the people also ask over there on Google. You could search, deeper if you want to check out forums or anything like that. But basically, if you add FAQs, it's going to be really helpful. Those FAQs will work for informational content, how-to articles, or product reviews. A lot of times you just have to do a little bit of research for either one, and it's right there, and people also ask. If you have product reviews and you're thinking, how can I add content to the product reviews? I'll give you a few options for that. One of them is to just add more products. So let's say you've reviewed 4 products. You could add a few more. You could follow the same format for the mini review in your content and just add more. If you have, let's say you have 7 already on there. Well, in that case, maybe you just want to beef up the individual mini reviews. You don't necessarily want to add more products. Maybe there's not good choices out there. So you could add more details. You could go take a look at the reviews on Amazon or on the manufacturer's website or wherever you could find more reviews. And then you can paraphrase. You don't want to copy the reviews exactly or anything like that, but you can paraphrase and use some of the information within those owner reviews to help people understand basically the owner impression. So those are really straightforward, really easy. And the great part with any of these where you add a new product or maybe you beef up an individual review, you can do a little bit of work whenever you have time. So ideally, sure, you would do the whole update all at once. But if you don't have all that time, you could sit down for 15 minutes and add, 5 sentences about the specific other features that you haven't covered yet in that mini review and just add more to it. So you could do it piecemeal, basically. Or, right, if you are adding those details, maybe you could do like 3 of the products and add more details about those 3 products. And then maybe you come back later and do the other 4 that are remaining. So it's really, however much time you have is what you could put into it. Gaz says, motivation for me directly relates to traffic, clicks, and sales as it's validation that you're doing something correctly and adding value. Great. And Scott says, you found me from the Mile High 5 podcast. You and Carl are awesome. You're starting to learn about affiliate marketing. Thanks for the great info. Cool, Scott. Yeah, it's been interesting, the crossover. So I had, I've been doing this affiliate marketing stuff for a lot longer than Mile High 5, which is my other podcast. People should check that out if you haven't. But there's a cool overlap, Scott, where, we have similar values often, but this channel is mostly related to side hustles, entrepreneurship, and stuff like that. But there's a big overlap, and we have a lot of the same values, but it's just a little bit of a different framing. And I think, Scott, if you listen to a lot of the other FI podcasts and stuff, you probably find, they talk about side hustles and different stuff they're working on all the time. People have courses, they're publishing books. Some people do real estate on the side. So it's just, different flavors. This is all online stuff. All right. So we've talked about improving the content. I gave you a couple ideas there. The other big area is to just publish more content. So the scenario that I gave before is like 100 articles. So that's fairly established. Maybe you're out of the sandbox, for example. But even whether you have like 20 articles or 100 or even like 300, there's a solid chance that you could find more keywords to target. You could find more content that could help your audience, that could pull in, more people just in general. I've been very excited recently about informational websites, not purely informational, although we do see a lot of those out there, but with the recent product review updates from Google over the past year or so, there's more concern about affiliate marketing reviews and how the Google algorithm can impact that. So if you happen to find, or you're in a niche that has a lot of informational content, a lot of how-to content maybe, it's great to just double down on that, to just dive in. On the channel, I've interviewed several people recently that are focusing solely on informational niches, informational keywords. The maybe most ambitious, maybe impressive example is from Charlie from Passive Priority. He has a YouTube channel, but I've interviewed him a few times, and he published 1,000 articles in 2021 on his site. He didn't monetize for about 10 months. So he was just putting in a lot of effort and just not monetizing. He was just investing and doubling down. And he published all this content, started monetizing it, I believe in September or October of last year. And it automatically went to like $1,500. And then the next month, I think it was 3,000. I think he hit 5 in December. And then I think it came back down after the retail season. That's something we typically see anyway. So nothing unusual there. But the point is, he found a very good niche where there are basically unlimited keywords. I don't know if he'll ever publish all the content that he technically can. He has thousands and thousands of keywords. It's a very formatted type of keyword phrase. Number one, it's a very formatted type of content. So it can be, number one, short form. It's easy for writers to write, and they don't have to think about it too much. They don't have to be creative. Just follow the format. Just stick with what the plan is. And he's been able to just publish a ton. And obviously publishing 1,000, I've never done that specifically, but publishing 1,000 articles, it's a big investment of time and money, and it's you got to have faith in the process, which Charlie did. And essentially most people that I hear from that do that sort of effort, it works out. It's rare when I hear from someone that takes on such a big project and doesn't make it work. Now, part of it, I've heard from people, by the way. In fact, someone just emailed me the last couple days. I think they have 200 posts on their site. They're hardly earning any money. And there's a solid chance they've just made some fundamental mistake. It could be around the keywords. It might be around the quality of the content. There's something off. You know, if you hear from someone, or if you happen to be in this situation where you've published hundreds of articles and you're basically getting no traffic, that's very unusual. It could be, you know, the competition's too difficult to compete with based on the quality that you have. And the thing is, I was about to say, like, the competition's too tough. But the fact is, people pop up and start brand new projects, whether it's on a blog or YouTube or a podcast or a print, like a physical magazine. Like, people pop up all the time in a very crowded space. And if they're good and the quality's high and there's actually a demand for whatever the content is, they're going to be successful. It's rare if you are putting in effort and you're trying and you're taking feedback from your audience, from the world, and you're trying to improve and you're willing to pivot if you need to. Usually it works out. That said, you know, I did have to provide the caveat and say, you know what, I do hear from people and they're like, yeah, but I've published, you know, hundreds of articles and it's not working. And, you know, typically, I mean, I don't, in the courses that I have, I don't recommend anyone do that. I have a much different approach. It's a sprint of work style approach where you have the opportunity to evaluate what you're doing and take feedback from the SERPs, from, you know, other sources where you know you're heading in the right direction. To Gaz's point, you see that you're getting more impressions. You see that you're getting more clicks and visitors, and you see slow growth, and you're interacting with your maybe peers and you're networking, and you're getting an understanding that, like, you are growing and people are paying attention. So anyway, I think I've gone down a tangent here. There are some informational niches where you may never run out of keywords, which is a very cool thing. So if you could find those, you could just publish more and more content. The length of content, it varies. If someone says, how long should content be? And you force me to give just a, you know, very simple answer, I'd say, you know, 1,000 to 1,500 words. Really, it's as long as it needs to be. If it's a complex thing, if it's, you know, something where all the competitors have longer form content that's 3,000 words, you probably need to be around 3,000 words. But some of those informational posts, they may have a much shorter length, and maybe 800 words is fine. Maybe 400 words is okay. So it's just something you'll have to do a little research on. And if you go back to my previous point, I mean, you may need to pivot, and maybe you tried to publish 800 words and you're ranking, but not as well as you could be. So maybe you add more content. Maybe you go back and improve it in some of the ways that we mentioned before. All right. So we had a couple people pop in here. Someone did mention, how do you tell when you're out of the sandbox? So Jody, there's like a 6-month length that's cited, and then a 12-month. More recently, I've heard people talk about a 12-month sandbox, and really all of a sudden your site starts growing much faster than it did before. And if you check out the blog post that I published over at Niche Website Builders, you can see, I'm pretty sure I published the analytics screenshot, but you can see nothing happened for about 10 months. And then the site started to grow just a little bit, and then it popped. So after 12 months, then it started growing much more quickly. And, you can see it didn't do really much at all for about 10 months. And then it was very minor, although it seemed big at the time. But once I got past a year, it grew much faster. Rolando is on What's Happening, Man. And then we have John says, you're ranking 7,000 traffic a month, over 100 articles, no earnings, no ads yet, but the site is growing hardcore. You've gone from 150 a day to 250, and then within last week, 350 a day. Yep. So I would say, I'm curious, how old's your site, John? I forget if you wrote it earlier here. All right. So I gave a few tips on improving content, and then we talked about adding more content. If you could find those informational keywords, it's fantastic. And quick note, we're going to have, I just didn't have time this morning to record the spot for Odys. So let's hop over there now, and Odys sponsored these. So I think I set this up earlier. So we got Odys, and they're the source for premium age domains. Age domains are great because they already have backlinks pointing to it. If you do check it out, you can get $100 in your account using my affiliate link. I may get a commission if you do sign up. The cool thing is they have like hundreds of age domains out there. And they have this pretty cool filtering mechanism. There's nothing super fancy about it, but it does help you sort through things. And let's just check out. So I'm going to filter for English. And some of these are pretty expensive. So the other thing I'm going to do is filter based on price. So maybe it's just a little bit cheaper. So let's say something under $6,000. And there's still 600 results here. So there's still quite a few. Of course, it's in various niches, and some of them, it wouldn't make sense. Like this bouncing cats one. If you have a dog and you want to have a dog website, then the bouncing cat one is not going to work. But let's check this one out. Bouncing cats. So when you click on any of these, you get some basic information to help you sort through it. So this bouncingcats.com is 14 years old. There's 252 referring domains, 6 high authority backlinks, and they assign some value on this, which, I would say some of these are debatable, but when you look at, the number of backlinks, and not all of them are do follow. All right, not all of these are do follow backlinks, but the thing is, if you were to price out how much it would cost to get the do follow backlinks from an agency, for example, you would have some value of the referring backlinks. And the thing is, backlinks are expensive. Backlinks are really expensive. And this particular domain is $2,400 and $2,470. They do give you some tips on their monetization angles. So affiliate marketing, which this is different than what I expected. Bouncing Cats would say, blah, blah, blah. They recommend reviewing dance schools and teachers with So my question is, if they have the wrong information here. I thought it would be more about cats and less about dancing. So let's see here. Bouncing Cats. They do give you the logo, which is fun. So you have the logo there. All right. This is completely different than what I expected. Bouncing Cats, I thought it was completely different. So they say it's a former domain of a welfare campaign and free workshop that would empower, rehabilitate, and heal the community by teaching youth about b-boy culture in Uganda. B-boy culture, it's about breakdancing, bouncing cats. What in the world? All right, so this is interesting. All right, so for something like this is a little coaching piece in here. So I thought this was about cats and a pet website, but really it's about dancing, break dancing. So in this case, I would have a look at the backlinks, which it's from New York Times, complex.com, Red Bull, HuffPost, Bustle, Wired, Mail Next, and so on. There's a lot of links. I would take a look at the links and the articles that they are from and think about if it makes sense to have links from those sites, from those articles, because you want to have sort of like niche relevancy from the backlinks. So I would look at that. And this particular domain, you could try to shift it over to a pet related site, but that could be tougher if all these backlinks here are really related to dancing and what the fuck? It's b-boy culture in Uganda. So if it's really like oriented towards that, then you may have to stick with the general idea of breakdancing or the welfare campaigns in Uganda, for example, making it a little bit less useful. Which, if we go back to the monetization angle that they mentioned here, affiliate marketing, reviewing dance schools and teachers. So you may have to be flexible. That said, that's why it's very useful to have the filtering thing. So you could filter, maybe make sure you're in the right niche area, for example. So if we wanted to take a look here, click on pets. Maybe this would have been a smarter way for me to do it. So here we go. Caton Encyclopedia, and this other one looks like it's German, actually, a .de. But the point is, you could browse around over here on Odys and get an aged domain if you are interested. So before we move on here, before we get back to the topic area and talk about promoting your site, if you joined late, I did open up a site growth plan. There's a link in the description. It's open for enrollment for just a few days, just till the end of the week. I decided just to hop in and go ahead and open it back up. I have several other courses, but I don't open them up too often. And I noticed a lot of people were emailing me last week that basically they already have a site. They're interested in growing it versus starting a new one with multi-profit site. So this course goes through what to do when you're stuck, what to do with content, conversion rate improvements, getting more backlinks. And one of the areas we talked about today is adding more content, maybe publishing new content, maybe adding more content to what you have. And one cool thing is I have a video and demo on pulling data from the Search Console to figure out what to improve. So worth checking out. There's a link in the description, and I'm not going to push it too hard, but I just wanted to let you know about it. And let's get back to the big screen here. All right. So thanks everyone for hopping into the chat. Let's see. All right. African Hype says, you inspire me. Great. Thank you. Blog Sprout says you're getting out of the sandbox in month 4. Excellent. How much content do you have? How much did you publish? If you're already getting out of the sandbox in month 4, that's great. And I think it varies. Sometimes it's going to take a lot longer. Sometimes it's much shorter. And I think a lot of it, if you look at Charlie that I mentioned before, he was publishing a huge amount of content, and he was publishing content that was targeting very low competition keywords. So he kind of got out of the sandbox faster, but still, once he hit the the year time frame, traffic grew even more. Jody says fear is the number one killer of ambition. If you go in fearless and willing to not care about anyone else's work but your own, you will do fine. Yeah. Nice. Gaz says, I looked at my competition and the top ranking articles just presented me with badly formatted articles, a wall of text, no images, broken links, and you've done better, but you need Google to index. Guys, how old is your site again? You have two, and I'm just curious which one. So I published a video last week, I think, and I published 47 articles in one day, and they were all indexed basically by the next day. Now it did take the Search Console, I think, about 5 days to retroactively show that. The caveat is the site is 18 months old. Is that right? 18 months. Yeah, it was 18 months old, and it has a bunch of backlinks. So it gets some traffic, maybe like 50,000 visitors a month, something like that. But it indexed the next day. I didn't do anything at all. It was just in the sitemap. Robin, what's happening? Good to see you. Michael's on here as well. Daniel says, if it takes 6 months plus to get out of the sandbox, would I be better off concentrating on winter-related articles? That's up for debate. I would say that's totally reasonable. I have talked to some people that, around this time of year, they started preparing for the retail season, which is one of the reasons why I put like site growth plan out. Like if you're thinking, hey, let's say it's November and you're like, hey, I want to take advantage of the retail season, you're going to have to aim for next year, right? So if you're doing stuff and it takes some time to get the results from the work that you're doing, I had all those articles, those 47 articles indexed in about a day, but it's still going to take them a little while to mature and improve their rankings, most likely. Some of them are going to rank more quickly, but generally it's going to take a little time. Okay, and John says, you're a year and 3 months old, and it's taken ages. So yeah, it definitely takes a bit to get rolling. And you said that your traffic's growing really fast, like something popped. Now I'm curious, John, is it across the board, like everything's growing, or is it certain articles have now ranked? So one interesting thing, and you don't know this until you've had a few sites, you'll often be surprised if you go from, say, number 8 to number 4, number 4 to number 1, your traffic will jump a lot more than what you might expect. So I'm curious if you have like one article that's doing better, or if several are now ranking better. All right. African Hype says, would a music niche website be profitable? Sure, it could be. An independent artist, I don't know. I don't know much about the monetization of those. So I would do some competition analysis to see if there are other websites that are earning money using that niche, and look at the monetization that they're approaching. Zach says you just passed 50,000 sessions a month and $1,500 per month between your two sites. One's a year and a half and the other is 6 months, and you're aiming for 2K by the end of summer. Awesome, Zach. Congrats. This is great progress. And Zach's earning 50% from Ezoic and 50% from affiliates. Very cool. Yeah. John says, imagine Doug buys it as a pet site, then it's B-Boys. Yeah. No clue. You start browsing around. That's why I try to record them early to avoid those things, and I'll have a look ahead of time. And then I'm like, all right, you just pop open the site, start browsing around. Let's just find one randomly. And then it's something completely different than what you would expect. I mean, the logo has a cat in it. The logo had a cat in it. So I was like, all right, this is cats. I got this. I understand. 4 legs and it meows. And then get the rug pulled out from under me. What the fuck? All right. But we love Odys over there. So please do check him out. And here's the thing with all the sponsors, they make this possible. So even if you're not going to buy anything, hop over there, send them an email, and say you appreciate the sponsorship. And niche website builders, they're helping me out too. So certainly hop over there. And a quick plug, we're going to, we're doing this this show with WP Eagle, Alex Cooper, and then we got Adam Smith and Mark Mars from Niche Website Builders. We're doing this show. What is it? The Niche Lifestyle Show? Niche Lifestyle Show. It's on my channel tomorrow, 8 a.m. I have to wake up early. I'm actually struggling with not waking up early because I wake up pretty early, but I usually walk Georgie around that time. And it'll be easier during the summer, but in the winter, Georgie doesn't want to go out too early. And if you don't know who Georgie is, watch the video that I published earlier this morning. She's in there showing her belly. She's nosing me and poking at me the whole time. She doesn't want anyone to pay any attention to anything except her. So the Niche Lifestyle Show, tomorrow we're going to talk about taking a site from $100 a month to $1,000 to $10,000. So same kind of topics, kind of tying them in together so I don't have to think about too many different things in the same week. Just keep it simple. But the good part about tomorrow is there's going to be 3 other people there and I don't have to talk as much. All right. And Blog Sprout says you have 110 articles. Okay, I'm getting behind on the chat, so we'll have to get to it here. One sec. Joanne, what's happening? Okay, Gaz says the second site is 3 months old, 32 articles, handwritten by Gaz himself, ranging from 1,500 to 3,500 words. So it's only 3 months old. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait until it gets out of the sandbox. So hold on, I'm going to catch up on the chat, and then I have a cool story coming up. All right, Steven says, you're curious. You have a site that lost all its snippets in November. You doubled down and added loads of content since December, and it's not growing much. Should I nave this site and focus on a different site? Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So you've added a lot of content since December. So you have, we'll call it 4 months of additional work that you've done, and it doesn't seem to be doing much. So I'll give you a couple options, Stephen. First, let us know in the chat if you have any opinion on this. So I'll read this out again, and you can leave a comment later. Stephen will come back and read all the comments. I'm volunteering you for that, Stephen, but I'm sure you will. So if you're watching this later, which hundreds of you do later, most of you watch it afterwards, which I appreciate very much. Here's the question. I have a site that lost all of its snippets in November 2021. You doubled down and you added loads of content since December, and it's not growing much. Should I keep working on it or focus on a different site? So option number 1, you can keep working on the site. You could keep publishing more content and see what happens. Your other option is, we'll give you 2 more. We'll do like a low, medium, high situation. 1, 2, 3. The other is to maybe split your effort on another site, plus continue trying to add and improve content on the one that had the issues in November. Or you can shift all of your effort over to a new site. So I think my question would be around your interest level in the particular site. And I'll tie it back in a second here. The thing is, it's great to see your efforts provide some result. When you don't get any feedback, it's really hard to tell if what you're doing is going to help. And this is the frustrating thing with SEO these days. Back in the day, even when I first started, there was a time where you could do things and then you would get results within days. So you would know that backlink helped, and it helped your rankings move up by like 5 positions in 3 days. Like, it was literally that fast. Now you may have to get like dozens of links over the course of several months before you see anything, which makes it very difficult to figure out what's effective. It's really kind of awful when you think about pivoting and understanding like the results of your actions. It's like dieting or like working out. Like, depending on where you are, like if you've never worked out before and then you start lifting weights, you can make some, pretty significant gains in a small amount of time. But if you're this is the kind of shape I'm in. I'm like kind of in okay shape. I'm pretty active. I've generally like done some weight training for many years, but not much. So I have to like do a lot more significant things to actually like tell if anything is working. And it may take, weeks or months, and there's so many variables. It is like SEO a little bit. Okay. So if you're here's the final sort of thought. Stephen, if you're interested in the topic area of the site that dropped, and let's say you're even passionate about it, you're a member of the community, then I would maybe just stick with it. And like, if it's a long-term thing for you, just keep moving on it. The quick example, and I have, so many of these, like as my interests evolve. So I'll give you 2 quick ones. Number 1 is around guitar building. So I started watching guitar builders on YouTube, and it's pretty fun. It's a very specific kind of woodworking. And I've only dabbled with a couple things. I made a couple small tables, but I have an interest in woodworking and using my hands, and like, it's really fun to build stuff. And time goes by like super fast when I do it. So I really enjoy it. And you're building something, and it's great to, use the power tools, and you're like, there's a table I built and it can be used for stuff. So I'm watching these guitar videos. The other one, I've always had an interest in astrophotography, and I actually have like a lot of the gear that one could use to take pictures of stars. And I've taken some of like the Milky Way when I've been traveling to actually more recently to Leadville, Colorado. I have taken some pictures of the stars in the Milky Way and Yellowstone as well. Actually, I got some great shots around the Old Faithful Inn area, which is very cool. So I was watching a video on astrophotography, and this, I was just like, I'm gonna be in a sort of a dark sky situation coming up soon. Middle of nowhere, middle of the fucking desert, it's like Breaking Bad or something. And I was like, you know what? I want to brush up. There's some techniques that I don't know, and I just kind of want to make sure I can actually go out there and take some pictures and maybe have some that I would want to print. And I found this dude who has a few 100,000 subscribers, and he has one of the videos I watched has like, about 1 million views. It's obscure. It's astrophotography. It's a very nerdy, very specific little sliver of photography, and he has like 1 million views on at least one of the videos that I was watching. So many of his other videos have, tens of thousands. The point being, in both of these cases, a guitar builder and an astrophotographer, they're doing it anyway. They are going to be building guitars and taking pictures of stars and planets and nebula. Anyway, they're doing that regardless. And they were videoing this stuff before they had any success at all. So the whole point, Stephen, is if it's something that you're interested in, just do it anyway. The other stuff will catch up. If you don't care about it, then maybe move on. The way to hedge it is to do a little bit of each. That's a super long answer. Okay, let's get back to it. We'll just answer questions, finish it out. Is Alex going live today? Not sure. Sometimes he starts around this period. If I answered your question, if you have the ability to hit the thumbs up. If I didn't answer your question, also hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs down. Whatever. Just click something. Take some action here. All right, Stephen, let me know if that makes sense at all. Jody says, that's a bummer, man. Did anyone else take your spot, or did the snippet drop off altogether? Can you go back and add more content and try to get that snippet? John says, you love the live content. You handle the curveballs well. Thanks. Daniel says, how many FAQs is too much for an informational article around 1,000 words? I often come up with a long list. Is more better? It's all very related to the post. Overall, I would say think about the visitor. Think about the searcher. Think about the things they're struggling with. I'm going to try to back up here. Think of the stuff they're struggling with. This is what I default to usually when it's an SEO question, but I don't know the answer. It's very safe for me to say this, by the way. So we can make some really weird decisions if we just think about like the best thing we should do from an SEO perspective, which is a really long thing to put in quotes. So you can just think about the visitor. And the problem is with some of these, let's say, for example, Google puts out, I'm just making this up as a hypothetical example, everybody. Let's say Google puts out an FAQ update because we're abusing the FAQ technique, adding too many questions. And then Google says, if there's too many questions in there, we're going to, ding you in some way or not recognize all the questions in there or something like that. So the point being, it shifts sometimes when marketers abuse it. So in that case, just think about the visitor and think, if someone searched for this phrase and they were trying to figure out how to do this stuff, if they had all these FAQs in there, would that be helpful or annoying? If it's helpful, put them in. Steven says you had 100 snippets. Now you have none. Other sites have the snippets, but you're ranking in 1 or 2 after the snippet. Man, that sucks. Yeah, so I don't know, and I lean on the answer that I mentioned before. Khalid says, is Amazon one link worth it? Well, it's free. It's free, man. So certainly worth the try, especially the new one where you link an existing ID without signing up to the individual regions. So I haven't tested the one link in a long time. When I used it before, it mostly did okay. This has been several years, but for a long time I've been using Genius Link, which they say that it maps to the products more accurately. I haven't tested it. I don't know if that's true. I like Genius Link. I think technically I'm an affiliate, but as far as one link, the only piece of data that I have is I know someone who was using Genius Link and then they switched over to one link and it appeared that their international revenue dropped. I can't comment, Khalid, on the specific one where you don't have to sign up to the individual region, so I'm not sure. Steven says you've added hundreds of posts per month on average. That is a lot of posts. You have 893 total posts, and you were at 300 at the end of November. So you have been adding so much. Steven, are you getting more impressions on the Search Console, at least? I didn't get out the guitar today, although it's right next to me, but I've been taking guitar lessons, and my teacher, she has a new album out. It's Christina Vane. It's sort of like, is it country? It's blues. It's blues country. It's all related, but Christina Vane. I should have put a link here, but I was thinking of interviewing her because she does a lot of social media stuff, and she's like grown a pretty healthy, I think it's like maybe like 20 or 30,000 Instagram followers. But anyway, check her out if she's on YouTube, so you can find her stuff there. Christina Vane, CR. All right. I'm making it through the chat here. I take way too long to answer. Blogsprout says, you're on month 410 articles, 10,000 visitors a month, 95% informational. You have $200 per month from Ezoic, $50 from Amazon. If I add more affiliate, do you think my site will lose traffic on the informational post? No, I don't think so. All right, Steven says you had 7,000 page views on the 893 posts. All right, John says, where do we see your astro photography photos? So I haven't published those anywhere. I don't even think I have them on Instagram. I have been, maybe in the last couple weeks, I've published just a couple more articles. I posted some pictures on Instagram. It's just Doug Cunnington on Instagram, and I have been taking more pictures. In fact, this morning I brought out the camera, which is still upstairs, but almost every morning I see a hawk or two outside, and I would say like 5 or 6 days a week I see a hawk on the walk with Georgie. So I have been taking a few pictures. So if you hop over to Instagram, you can see I have a couple pictures of some eagles. Usually it's food and beer, but I have been thinking, hey, I should just like bring the camera out and like post some more stuff. So when I do take the camera out and get the astro photography images, I will probably post a couple out there. Thanks for asking, John. All right. Learn Medicare says, I'm a licensed PT. Your site has 72 articles. You're growing with over 16,000 visitors a month and 30,000 page views. Awesome. Keep up the good work. Stars and Guitars, Wave Jumper. And hopefully whatever I said, Steven, is helpful. Zach says, I'm still having issues with the snippet ban issue on one of my sites. It's brutal. I've heard a couple sites have gotten them back, but it seems most of us haven't. And Zach, I'm curious, do you have any like information on what the people have done? Is it just kind of random? I suspect if you had a bunch of snippets and then you did a bunch of stuff, Steven published like 3 times more or he published twice as many articles as he had. He's published a ton and it hasn't helped, apparently. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. So I'm assuming there's nothing you could do. It's just kind of random. And Couch said you said hi to Alex for me. Are you watching in both places, Couch? That is dedication. You must be watching in 2 windows. All right, so I think we did a good job here today. I finally made it through the chat. I have been taking guitar lessons, but I haven't been practicing as much in the last week or so. One thing I did last week, I don't want to tell all the stories that I can mention for tomorrow for the niche lifestyle show. So the story I was about to say, basically I've been a little bit busier, and then I enjoy playing the guitar, but I just haven't been sitting down and like grinding through it. And one of my friends he was like, I don't think guitar is for me. I just don't have the coordination, blah, blah, blah. And like, I just didn't get it. And I was like, you know what, man, I've been taking these lessons and I've been working on the finger style for just over a year, and it's really hard. It's just sitting in and getting the reps in, sitting down, struggling through whatever it is you're trying to play. The coordination is just not there until you develop it. And it's like anything that you might work on. It's a little crazy when you think about it, but it's like if you pick up a brand new instrument you've never played before, it's great. Kind of like maybe working on a website. Like you can start a website, you can get WordPress installed. It feels good to get something done. And then you can, write some articles and publish them. And then you could have like maybe some images that you've taken on your phone even. You're like, wow, like I've published this stuff. It's on the internet, and it's rewarding just to publish it. When people start visiting the site, it's super amazing. And one thing that happens, and I've talked to so many people that have mentioned this, actually it doesn't even matter what kind of content or what it is they're producing. It could be the guitar, it could be the astrophotography, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a podcast. Work on something for a year, work on it for 3 and 5, and then go back and check out the very first stuff that you were doing at each one of the intervals. From 1 year to year 3 to year 5, and you go back to the stuff that you were doing previously, and you realize how terrible it was, yet you were so proud of it at the time. So my friend playing guitar, I was like, you know what? You may actually be just fine. You may be really talented at it, but you just have to work on it. You have to get the reps in and go through it. And then eventually things start clicking. And with the guitar specifically, we have a legit question coming up. So that'll be the last one. So with the guitar specifically, one thing that I noticed is I would work on something, like I said, very slow pace, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, so slow, right? Infuriating when you're going through and you're still making mistakes. And you very slowly get faster. Maybe it's over the course of like 3 days. And then sometimes you may be doing the same thing over and over again for like a week. And you may be doing something for like 30 minutes a day for a week, and you're making what seems to be no progress, or it's imperceptible. And then all of a sudden something clicks, and then you're able to play much faster. And it sounds good. And I think that probably transfers for so many things. It could be like athletic things that you're working on. Maybe it's running or hiking or something like that, where you work on it for a while and then all of a sudden it clicks for you. Okay, GTFO. What on-page factors are the most important? Probably the title. I think the title is probably the most important thing, very close to the content, right? The content and the subheadings. So there's obviously a lot of other factors, but if you have the title very close to what the keyword is, you're going to be in good shape. And then if all the content is about whatever that topic is and the subheadings are related to it, you'll be in good shape. There are many tools out there that are a lot more surgical, but that is the general idea. Yeah, and GTFO says hobbies like playing the guitar are important because they enable you to see progress, and this can be applied to other things in life. Indeed. All right, I think that's it for today. So thanks for hopping on with me. Tomorrow, join me and Alex Cooper, Mark Mars, and Adam Smith. It'll be 8 a.m. Mountain Time, so check your local listings. And we're going to talk about growing a site, $100 to $1,000 to $10,000. My course for growing a site is for sale, so you can check the details in the description. And there is a little bundle with HARO Linkbuilding as well, so you can check that out. It's just open for a few days here for the people that are interested in growing their site. So have a great day and check out the podcast if you haven't before. We got Mile High Five. We have the Doug Show.